Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining
Hello.
us. This is Lowri. And I'm Hannah. So thank you so much for joining us today. This is a nice little additional piece of content on the slate. And usually it's quite focused towards actors, especially in the UK. We haven't really done anything on the slate which is focused towards filmmakers. So I'm so excited to be doing this today. We've got some special mentions and exciting news to mention at the end. But you've all joined today knowing what this is about. Hopefully. We're talking to Lowri about her film career so far, and especially paying attention to what she did as a student filmmaker. As I know so many of you who are watching today are student filmmakers. So I'm actually going to let Lowri introduce herself rather than going on and on about her without her saying anything. So I should mention as well, this is part of Backstage slate of digital content. And usually we are, as I say, putting out actors content, but we do put out now a lot of creator content as well in editorial. So do keep your eye on the website, which is backstage.com. I'm going to mention a couple of things at the end that a lot of you guys will already know about with regards to posting on Backstage, and I'll just remind you of those things. But for now, yeah, let's dive in, Lowri. So let's start. I'm going to go in chronological order. Let's start with how and why and when did you start getting an interest in filmmaking?
I think from a pretty young age, I love films. I feel like most people do. And I used to like go in a lot of the school plays, or I was in quite a few different theatre groups, like acting. And for a while when I was in school, I was doing acting, and I actually applied for drama school because I was like, that's what I want to do. And then I slowly realized that actually, no, that wasn't what I wanted to do, because I'm actually not that big on theatre, and it was just film that I was like, I want to do that. So then I slowly realized after doing loads of auditions that I was like, no, it's film that I'm interested in, and you don't have to be an actor to be in film. I just want to be behind the camera. I want to be involved in films in a different way. And that was kind of how it first became a thing. And I'd already like made little videos when I was in school. I used to like making little films, both insubstantial. But yeah, that was how it all kind of began.
And did you see, like, was acting for you the most obvious way that you could get into film? And is that why you chose it first?
Yeah, I think so. Because I used to always watch the behind the scenes of it was sort of like the Harry Potter films, really, and Lord of the Rings as well. I'd watch the behind the scenes all the time, and you only kind of see the actors in it. Like that's what the main focus is, obviously, because they're the stars and you want to know what they're up to. So I was like, okay, if you want to be a part of a film, then that's what you got to do. And then I was like, oh no, there's other jobs in film, and that suits me way better.
Yeah. So where did you grow up? Just so people know for context, you know, that.
Yeah. So I grew up in North Wales in a little place just outside of Conway, and went to school in Colwyn Bay, so all around up there, which is like quite far away from anything filmy. Well, that's what I thought, but I now realise that there's quite a few little things going on up there that are really good film-wise.
Yeah, I think it was the same in my school as probably what it sounds like in your school, because I'm from Wales also, and yeah, didn't know anything about film being a career. Now, obviously, when you work in it, you're like, there's so many jobs, there's so many different things you can do, but you just don't, you don't know at all. So wicked. Okay, so you found your way into filmmaking, and you wanted to be behind the camera, and you decided that. So, how did you decide on your film course? What was it that you were looking for, and how did you decide on youve?
Well, this is probably not like a great example on how to choose what film school you go to, because I'd auditioned to loads of different drama schools, got rejected from most of them, and I didn't have any more UCAS places to apply to, because I'd used them all. But then there's one thing that's like extra, so you could go to one more place. And my cousin was like, oh, my I think I must have mentioned I was thinking of film, and he was like, oh, my mate goes to youve and does filmmaking, and it's a really, really good course. So it was literally just that it recommended by a friend, and then I saw that it was that was a place that still had spaces. So I was like, all right, I'll try there. And then went for an interview, and they were like, okay. And I was like, I don't know why, because I've never done any film before. Like, I hadn't even studied media or anything. Wow. So that was just a bit of a weird chance thing, but definitely like a really good decision.
So you didn't do anything like filmy in school then, but what did you do in school before you went to uni? What was your topics?
I did well in A level. I did drama, English language, which are probably the most like linked to what I do now, and maths and biology, which is just a bit like random. I don't really know what I was doing there. Yeah, but that's just how like undecided I was, I think, at that point.
But maths is quite useful for like when you're working as a producer, you have to do loads of budget stuff. So maths is quite useful. Biology is like a bit of an anomaly, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do that great in it, so
just goes to show.
Yeah, I didn't need that one.
So cool. Okay, so you went to UWE and you did really well, and at the end of it, you made a film called Girl, which was your graduate film, and went on to do like insanely well in all the festivals, and won you a BAFTA Cymru award for best short film 2 years ago, right?
2 years ago.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive in just for everyone who's watching now. So it feels like I'm just having a conversation with you, but we have to remember the people watching. So if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about, pop it in there. There's a Q&A box at the bottom, and we're going to leave loads of time at the end to dive into your questions after we've gone through just the initial process. But let's start with, what was the idea behind Girl? How did you decide on that being your graduate topic?
It was actually, I was on the way. I knew I wanted to make a film. I wanted to direct a film at the end of uni, because I hadn't directed one yet before that. And I was trying to think of ideas, and I was actually driving home from North Wales, and I stopped at a service station and saw a sign in a toilet that I think it was an ActionAid sign, that had a picture of this girl, and it said, "You've lost your home, you've lost your family, and now you've got your period." And I was like, oh my God. And it just really got me thinking. I had like a whole drive, like 4 hours to drive after that. So I was just thinking about it the whole time. And it was like, I think that's something that I want to research and find out more about. And that's what I want to make a film about. So that's where it came from. It was from a poster.
Wow, I remember those posters actually. So that's the beginning of what the story was going to be made into. Somebody's just asked here, where can they see the film?
On my Vimeo. Is that the only place? It might be actually, on my Vimeo, just Lowri Roberts on Vimeo, I think.
Oh, there we go.
Or on my website. Thanks.
Amanda, nice. Cool. So that was the beginning of what the story was going to be about. And how long did pre-production and all of the development of it take before you've decided on what you're going to shoot?
I mean, it was pretty quick, because it was a uni like assignment. So it would have been one semester, which is what, like a third of a year, maybe. So quick maths,
Very
4 months.
Yes, or A level.
So pretty quick. And it was only, there was quite a lot of script development, but I looked back at the script kind of recently, just out of curiosity, because I'd watched the film back, and I was like, how was it even different to the script in the end? And it is so different. We did so much work on the script, and the film is like quite a different film to the script, but it is also what I'd imagined. So that's all very interesting. But the actual shoot was 3 days, or about 2.5 really. And then post was really quick. I think we were just really not, we didn't get too tied to anything. Like if something was a bit too slow and we were like, don't really like that, we were just like, just get rid. And yeah.
That's really good. So did the story change from the script through development, or was it when you were on set with the actors? Like at what stage did it change the most?
I think, I mean, the script went through a lot of development where it changed loads anyway, but then also being, maybe it was the edit that changed it quite a bit actually, because we cut a lot of scenes. There was there were quite a few more scenes than what are seen in the film. Like there was a whole other character that we just completely didn't use any of the stuff with her, and was nothing against her, she was great. It was just like it didn't quite feel like it was needed. And actually I think for Girl, it was just like we should just make it as simple as possible, and that's kind of what it ended up being. So
yeah, it does. It really doesn't like overcomplicate unnecessarily. Like the subject matter, it speaks for itself, and it's really nice and quiet, and like, yeah, it's such a serious, thing that the acting and the amount in there really does work for what it is. So how do you have any tips for filmmakers? Because I know, like, especially with short films, the shorter your short film is, the easier it is to get into festivals because they've only got a certain amount of time that they can fill. So have you got any tips around not being so precious when you're in the edit to get it down to the right length?
I mean, if you can make the script shorter to start with, that'll just make your whole life way easier because you'll be less attached to things. So if you can just be like, that's needed, get rid now, then do that. But yeah, if you have then shot it and then you get into the edit, I mean, I think it is just as simple as you've just got to think. I guess you've just got to see it as someone else who hasn't seen the film before, and you're like, can it work without this? If it can, then yes. If it's like not actually doing that much for the film, then yeah, just get rid. And definitely like having other people in the room as well, making sure that it's not just, I had an editor and the other producer on it as well. We were in the edit room like at all times together, and we were very much like, if someone was like, I'm really not feeling that, then we'd be like, oh, okay, okay, fair enough, get rid. So have a really open relationship with the people that you're editing with, and don't be like nervous to say, I don't really fancy that shot. And then I think that's the way.
And that all goes back to as well, like just really finding the right team at the beginning. Although, when because this is something I really don't know, when you're doing your graduate film, do you get put with people, or can you pick who your crew is?
I think we got to pick, but also it does have to kind of, like, if there's someone who doesn't have a film that they're a part of, then you might have to take someone on. And I think it can be a bit of a mixture of the two, which makes it very different to how it would be in the normal world, which like brings up problems that you might not have normally, because you might not usually work with a certain person, or they might not be that interested. Might not be their usual type of film that they'd like to work on, which is fair enough. But in uni that does just happen, and I think it's just something you've got to deal with, really.
Yeah. So what was the overall budget of Girl? Can you remember?
It was £500, but we didn't, obviously, like, none of us got, well, no, we paid the actors actually. None of the crew got paid, and we didn't have to pay for any of the equipment because the uni had that. But then everything else was £500.
Wow, cool. And, okay, so we talked about actors paying actors and stuff like that. So how was the casting process? Who was in charge of that within your group, and how did it all work?
It was, so me and Namala, who was the other producer on it, we got in contact with Briz Kids in Bristol, who do casting for children, and it was really nice. It was the first time that I'd worked with a casting director, so it was quite nice to have be presented with people instead of putting out loads of calls ourselves. So that was really good. And then we held auditions with some really amazing young girls, and held these auditions, which must have been so hard for these girls because the film doesn't have any dialogue, and we didn't, so that's quite hard to audition something with no dialogue, and also in an audition room where you're not actually on the set anyway. So I think we did write some sides to be able to get them in the feel of it all, but that must have been really hard, and they were all really good. But then straight away, when we saw Naomi, who plays the main character, we were like, no, she's the one. She was a standout.
Yeah, you knew straight away.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point, and a lot of the people who are watching today have probably had a seminar with me. I talked to loads of different film schools about casting, and I was literally having this conversation this morning with a director about how we audition when the character has to be very quiet and it has to be really expressionistic. So yeah, just speak a little bit about how you constructed dialogue and what else you did in the audition.
I mean, I think I can't think what exactly the the dialogue that we would have been having, or if we even had that much at all. But it was actually the costume the costume or the wardrobe person. She was really up for just coming and helping, because obviously it's student film, so everyone kind of helps out on a bit of everything. And she sat in and she was she was pretending to be her mother at one point, and she was like, okay, now I'm going to be a stranger to you, and then we'd put them in different situations, and we're trying to do it without dialogue still quite a bit, because obviously the film doesn't have dialogue, so there wasn't that much point in only doing dialogue auditions. So we put her with somebody else, and just let them kind of do things quite freely, and then we put them into certain situations and actually get them to do the scenes that are in the script. But then we did things outside of it as well.
Cool. So it all went really well. This is the part that I'm really, really interested about, and I'm sure most people who are watching, this is the part that they really want to know about. So you get it done, it goes really well. You've been pretty, well, I'm not going to say ruthless. You've been sensible with your edit and made sure that it's the right thing that everybody wanted to make, which is great. So what did you how did you strategize your festival? Was that always the plan that you were gonna really go for it with this film? And how did you plan? Who was in charge?
I was in charge. It was cause I guess with a student film, it does sometimes just end up being you've just got to do it. If you were the director or the producer on it, it's kind of just up to you to crack on. So I had been, when I was making it, I was like, I'm gonna try put this to festivals and see if it's a thing. I knew it was obviously just for uni, but I was like, oh, might as well apply to some. So I did a plan, and I applied to a few festivals, not that many, because obviously it's really expensive, so you don't really want it. But BFI LFF must have been one of those first ones that I applied to. And then I applied to loads of free ones that were had a niche in female filmmakers or refugee, if they were interested in films about that kind of thing, or just that had different niches to them and were free, or £1. And I applied to loads of those and got loads of rejections from loads of them. And then it was a bit after, I think it must have been a few months after I'd graduated, and I got an email through saying that I'd got into LFF, and I was like, oh my god, what? That I didn't think it was real at first, and I didn't, before I told anybody, I'd checked it a million times and was really confused, and was like, is this even, am I thinking of the wrong, of a different festival, and it can't actually be that one, and then I was like, no, it actually is. So that was really exciting.
So good. And then, so LFF is London Film Festival, the BFI London Film Festival. So did from the screening there, did it get picked up by anyone else? Like, because does that happen sometimes? Did it happen with this one?
It did. It did a little bit, not by any like major festivals, but it did. Yeah, it did get picked up, and I got asked to go if I'd screen in some other small festivals. And then I think when you apply for some festivals, they ask if you've already had it in any like big festivals, and then I'd be like, I had an LFF, and then I think that can help. It didn't, like, I still got rejected from loads more places, but then I did get into a lot more places as well. So I think it does help to have that,
like rolling a bit on it.
So
how long is the run time for Girl?
5 minutes.
So for me, like, that's got a really perfect formula. It's nice and short. It's really simply done. Like the idea is really important. That's another poignant thing. You know, it doesn't have to be, but like, if things are done well and they are about something which is important that maybe we haven't seen before, great. It's short and you did it in a really simple way so that you could keep your production budget low and it still look like really good. So that's so cool. Okay, great. So we did loads of film festivals and stuff. And then how did it come about that you wanted to send it through to BAFTA to be looked at for the Cymru Awards?
Well, it had gone to LFF, and I think it was Leeds International Festival is also a BAFTA qualifying one. So then I was like, oh, okay, that means that it's BAFTA qualifying. And then I saw that, I could apply to BAFTA Cymru. Oh no, sorry, I'm going to revert back a bit. So it had gone into LFF. That was great, but it still costs so much money to go to other festivals. So I was like, I can't really just keep pumping in money to festivals. Like, I've just finished uni, I don't even like have that. So I emailed a few different places that were, well, one particular place, Thinks, who do period proof underwear.
Yeah.
And like a few different places like that, but they got back to me, and I basically just been like, my film is going here. I wondered if I would like will you watch it? You might like it. I didn't really know what I was asking for, but I was just like, maybe they'd like post it for me and just share it. But then they actually came back and were like, could we sponsor it when it goes to LFF? So I was like, yeah, definitely. So we got a bit of money from them. And then I used that for the other festivals. So then submit to other festivals. Then you obviously, because you have to pay to submit to BAFTA as well. So I think without that money, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And yeah, so then that was why and how I was like, okay, let's
do it.
Apply to BAFTA.
Oh my God.
Which seemed a bit ridiculous, but I was like, might as well.
Imagine you didn't though. Like,
yeah, that's true.
If you think that you've got something that is good and people want to see, and everybody who's seen it has said it's really good, then don't be shy about going after things. I think I'm only learning, like, as I'm getting older, to not be so like humbling myself out of opportunity. There's so much out there that if you don't apply for things, you're not going to get them. Which
exactly.
Awards, festivals, programs and schemes and stuff like that. You need to be looking at as much stuff as you can to get yourself out as much as you can. So you apply with Girl to BAFTA, and then how quickly did you find out that it'd been nominated? Because nominated.
So this is quite a funny story. So I didn't realize when they'd released, when the day that they had emailed everyone to say you've been nominated, my emails weren't working, and I missed a load of emails for that, and I just never got those emails back, and I still have never got that email. But I just happened to be like scrolling on Twitter, and I saw that these nominations had come out. I think it must have been like a few months after, and it was so long ago, and it was such on a whim that I'd kind of forgotten that I'd done it, which is always good, because the worst thing is when you're like waiting for something. But yeah, so I was just scrolling on Twitter one day, and they put out the nominations, and it said girl, and I was like, oh, that's weird. It didn't say who by or anything, or didn't have any photos on that one, so I was like, oh, that's so funny. And I was like, oh my god, I applied to that, and my film is obviously called Girl. And then I went onto their page and I saw that there was a photo, and I was like, oh my god, that's my film, why have they not told me that? And then I realized that my emails were down, and then yeah, I was like, sweet.
That's so typical.
It was a really weird way. And I was at my cousin's house at the time, and I was like, Aled, I think I might have been nominated for a Welsh BAFTA. He's like, what do you mean you think? I was like, come here.
Oh my god, that is amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see we've got quite a few questions coming in, and I really want to make sure we answer everyone's today. Usually I'm not able to get to all of them, but I know we've got such a great audience, so I really want to make sure we answer their questions. But so you win the BAFTA. This was after you graduated, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And after LFF, and yeah, it was quite a while after.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So so when you left uni then, did you have a plan? Like what were the next steps for you?
When I left uni, I went to a production company, and I was an edit assistant for like, it wasn't very long, it was like a couple months as an internship. So I did that, and it was kind of just like, get a job somewhere in the industry doing something and stay in Bristol. I was like, I don't really want to go. I was adamant not to go back up to North Wales, even though I absolutely love North Wales, but I was like, I won't be working in film if I go up there straight away. So yeah, I got a job at this place doing that, and that's when I found out that I was going to LFF. And then I was like, oh, I could do this. I could actually do my own projects. So then I quit there, and I started working at the cafe that I used to work at in uni, which is at the Bottle Yard Studios, which is like a big studio in Bristol. So I still kind of felt like I was working in film, but I was actually just making coffees. And then I was like writing on my downtime. And then I've done a few jobs within that. So it was just kind of like, keep going, stay in the city for a bit. And yeah, that was it. Yeah,
that was the plan. Cool. And then was it shortly after that you started working at Calling the Shots? Is that?
Yeah, that was, yeah, it was. Because I was at the cafe for a while, and I was just doing writing, and then then I got commissioned to make Bitch, which was with Calling the Shots, and then they were also like, oh, we need an assistant producer. And I was like, I could be an assistant producer, and then I did that. So I worked there for a year and a bit, I think, about a year and a half.
Cool. Okay, I think we should get on to what you're up to now in a moment. Let's see what we've got in the way of uni student questions. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So Ben, Davidson, thank you so much, everyone, for putting in your questions. Very good. If you could keep bringing them in, then that's also good. So Ben, we'll start with you. I'm 37 years young, started digital film production at uni back in September. Is age a big thing? Am I too late to get involved in film? I did media and drama A-level back in 2002 and always intended to go through stage school, but we just couldn't afford it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Ben's question there?
I think I think it's not a thing, that's absolutely fine. But I do know that there are some schemes that have been, well, the scheme that I was working on at Calling the Shots actually was 16 to 30. But so many people we get so many emails of people being like, I'm above 30 and I'm still a talent. And that's certain, like they absolutely were. I think Calling the Shots were kind of saying to the BBC, this isn't right, like this shouldn't really be a thing. And I think that is changing. So I don't think, and I hope that that's not a problem. I think it is definitely changing from what it probably has been before.
Yeah, I would say I would concur, because the BFI network that looks after the West, like Bristol,
Yeah.
I was on a talk with Alex, who manages the funding there, and she said somebody had that exact same question, you know, why should it be for young people, this starters fund? And she clarified, no, the starter doesn't mean like young people, it means new people. So I think they are changing a lot of the, because you're so right, like it's how are people meant to get, especially people who had to do things for family purposes, and you know, we need to level the playing field with all that stuff as well. And also, like, you know, Ben, you're going to have a wealth of experience and stories, and have met loads of different weird characters over your years. So like, I think it's good. Like, we should be encouraging all different types of people to get in.
Absolutely.
Okay, so cool. So Matt Clark has asked, we've just handed in our graduate film at UWE today at 2 p.m. Oh, well, you actually came to our talk as well. UWE.
Yeah.
What advice what would your advice be about going about a festival strategy? So we've spoken a bit about festival strategy, but did you, like, how meticulous were you with your plan, maybe?
I was pretty good, actually. I was pretty good. But since I haven't been, I think I just had a good phase where I was like, I'm going to actually do this. And then I haven't been that great since. But really research your festivals, find out what they kind of like, what kind of films they usually screen, what they go for, like who the festival programmers are, like find out who they are, and if you can listen to any talks that they've done or anything, then great, because that's only useful. Although I suppose you have made your film now. No, that's still useful, yeah, because you'd be like, they would like what I've made. And then if you've got anything niche about your film, like the genre or what it's about or who you are, then make use of that as well and incorporate that into your plan.
Yeah, cool.
I would say.
Like what you did, like for example, like what you did with Thinks and go into refugee like film festivals with like different focuses and stuff. Cool. So we've got another guy from UWE here, Lucas James, also just submitted their graduate film on course at UWE. Are there any tips for getting the most out of the facilities before it's time to leave, or anything after you left you wished you had done with your time at UWE? So 2 questions.
Yes, I like the stuff at UWE in particular. I'm sure other unis have great stuff as well, but they have amazing kit that I just never really made use of. So absolutely use that, and use the edit suites, and just use it all. Just make, if you're able to get out a camera and just make a film, or just practice using a camera or recording sound or whatever, then absolutely do that. And that's definitely what I wish I had done more. Yeah,
definitely agree with that. I did photography in uni, and when I think now about all the facilities, I'm like, for God's sake,
I
use them.
I know, it's like, what was I doing? I don't know.
Okay, so we got another question from Thomas. What were your concerns regarding press kit and other requirements to submit to festivals, particularly BAFTA, and how soon did you start working on them?
Sure. When it got into LFF, I made this big press kit that I don't think ever got used. So I don't know if they're like, as in like a big PDF that had things in it, that I never used ever again. And I don't know that anyone ever even looked at that. So maybe they're not as big a thing as they used to have been, or maybe they're not as big a thing as they would be for bigger films, with like massive names that like press will actually want to know stuff about. So I didn't worry about that too much, but like a poster is really good, and I did that. I should have done that before it got in anywhere, but I did that as soon as I found out it was getting into places. And all your stills are really important to have, and then a bio about yourself as well. Like make sure you have a really solid thing about you. But I'd say don't worry too much about a massive press kit.
Cool, great. Louis Heaton, who is a course leader at London Met, has just said, which is in response to Ben's message as well. Chloe Zhao was 39 and only made her first feature film 6 years ago. So, and now look at her. She's just won she won the BAFTA as well as the Oscar, right? For best film.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very true. So yeah, I just don't think, like, we can't say that we're looking to create a more diverse and inclusive industry if we're not going to be taking into consideration everybody, you know. It shouldn't just be one section of our society. So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna just move things along and then we'll come back to the questions. So please do keep popping them in. So you graduated, you worked at Calling the Shots, you're getting loads of experience producing and continue to write your own stuff. And then, yeah, tell me what happened like a few years ago where you left Calling the Shots, not too recently, but what was the transition from you going to your first like solid film job into now where you are?
So I had, so at Rapt, you go like moving on to Rapt.
Yeah, actually, do you know what? Maybe it would be more understandable if you just explained what you're up to now, and then
okay,
how
cool.
that happened.
Okay, cool. So at the moment, I'm a producer at Rapt, which is a production company with Maisie Williams, which is really exciting. And we haven't launched that long ago, but we've been working on stuff for quite a while now. And I am still writing a bit, and I was writing a lot during lockdown. But yeah, now we're looking at longer form projects and trying to get them going. I've been reading books that could be interesting to turn into film, and just trying to find people that we want to work with to make films with. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, is mainly producing, which is really good fun.
Cool. So so essentially you've been working with Maisie, setting up a production company. So could you just go through a couple of things that if anybody that's watching now was thinking about setting up a production company, either when they leave uni or, you know, a few years after that, what are the things that have been like eye-opening to you that you've learned or that you need to make sure you put in place to set up a production company?
I mean, it's still such early days that I feel that's quite a tough question. But yeah, but we've just been like, we're definitely still figuring it out as we go along. And like most weeks we'll be like, oh, we should make this thing for the company. And that can be a thing that we use all the time. And that you'll just keep finding out more and more ways to keep everything organized and keep things moving. And that's not really an exact thing of what to do, but
that is a difficult question, because like, and this is something that I'm sure I've told a lot of students in here before, is like a lot of the time people are just making up as they go along. As long as you're like passionate and you really care about what you do and you're trying to find out the right ways to do things as you go along, like a lot of people, you hear it all the time, like I'm totally winging it or at least it feels like that, like flying by the seat of your pants. And also like film is always changing and there's no like linear like route for like creative projects. So that's probably a difficult question. Okay, cool. So so what are the things that you're working on at the moment that you're excited about? Is there anything you want to like highlight or talk about?
I mean, we just the other day released the podcast that we're both on.
How funny you mention it, Lowri.
Yes.
It was yesterday. It wasn't a few weeks.
Oh, yeah, it was yesterday. We released the trailer to the podcast that we've been making, and have been doing throughout lockdown, which I'm really excited about, and that I was quite shy about at first, but then I listened back to a load of the episodes and I was like, oh no, they're actually quite funny. I say that and I hope people don't listen to this and think you're really not funny.
We hope anyway. So tell everyone just like what the podcast is about, because I'm sure it'll be in a lot of people's interest.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Frank Film Club with Maisie Williams. Uh, Maisie Williams, myself, Hannah, and Chloe Colpin, and we're 4 women who work in film, and we just watch films and then talk about them. But it's basically, it's probably not your classic film podcast, because the point of it is that we in lockdown were like, we're rubbish at talking about films, and when you go to festivals or whatever, and people would be like, oh, what do you think about this film? And I would just freeze and get all flustered and not really know what to say or how to articulate it. So, and we all kind of had that in common. So we were like, all right, let's start doing a film club, or not on a podcast. And then after a while, we were like, we could share this with the world. And then that's what we've done. So it's us trying to figure out how we feel about films and how we can talk about them.
Yeah, definitely. You broke up a little bit at the beginning, by the way.
Oh no.
So the podcast is called Frank Film Club with Maisie Williams, and it's if you didn't catch it, it's me, Lowri, and Maisie Williams, and a producer called Chloe Colpin. And yeah, as Lowri says, we just talk about films, but it's been such a learning curve for me. I knew that I wasn't very articulate in the way I spoke about film. And now I know that even more, but this podcast has really helped me learn like that's okay. I have feelings, and it's okay to express what they are without knowing what references to a 1920s film and how they were inspired by a painter or whatever. You don't need to know all of it. You just need to know how it feels and what you like about the certain elements, and we talk about all that stuff. So I'll mention at the end and I'll pop it in the chat as well, where you guys can watch that. So that's what we've been doing with Rapt. I'm going to ask you some like relatively generic questions, and then we'll go back to questions from the audience. Okay, so what do you wish you had known when you went into uni?
I kind of said this before to one of the Q&A questions. I wish that I had just used more things at uni and had a go at actually using a camera. I don't know that I ever just booked out the camera myself to just go and have a go at shooting something. So yeah, that would be it. That I just had to go at more things practically.
Yeah, wicked. What was one of the things that you wish you had known after you graduated, going into the world of actual career life?
I wish that I had known that I had like continued my own projects from as soon as I finished uni, because I think when I first finished, I was like, okay, cool, that's done, I'll go get a job, and I just kind of forgot about anything that I'd want to make. And it wasn't until my film got into a festival and I was like, oh, I could make my own things. And really, I should have just been like, okay, I'm going to continue making my own things, and as well as working. So I think that would be a thing. Yeah.
I was having this exact conversation with a filmmaker called Sean Thomas on Tuesday, and he was saying like he's in a position, and I was, there's a lot of people in the industry, they're in this position that they forget about what their passion is, and they get led down a bit of a garden path with their careers. So you're right, like you just have to keep going at both simultaneously and work out what's best for you and not forget what you love.
Yeah.
So Molly Foxon, great name, has asked, how do you deal with rejections within the industry?
I think because I like email so many people and I apply to so many different things, I've just got so used to it that I just don't expect that much back. Not in like a really pessimistic way, but just in like, I'm like, okay, that's fine, I wasn't the right suit for that thing. And quite often when I had like been applying for things, I'd be like, I'm kind of like wording this so it sounds like I'm better for this than I am, and I kind of know that it's not quite my fit, but I'll just go for it on the off chance. So quite often I'm like, that's fine, it wasn't meant to be. and if you apply to that many things, or if you like contact that many people, someone will come back.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I've had some like a lot of rejections, but it's fine.
Absolutely same. I realized, I think someone actually said this to me, you've got it to, what was it? To get exciting emails, you have to send exciting emails. Like I would send a couple of emails and I'd be like, just waiting by my inbox, just thinking, why is nobody getting back to me? So, and it is like, it's a lot. And for like me as a casting person, I'm sending emails all the time. And you know, you as a director, producer doing it, you know, all the time as well. So we're all in the same boat. Like everybody wants to make something good and wants to be employed and wants to work on something. And more often than not, like people are, as long as you come from a like genuine place and you're not like obviously phoning it in when you get in touch with someone, like I think you'd be surprised with how many people come back to you with
because that's how I got in touch with Maisie, was just putting an email out and seeing if anything would come back. That was like on a big whim. But then I equally had it. I actually haven't told you about this before, and it's hilarious. I'm not going to say who it was, but I found out that someone who's like quite a big name lives down the road from me, and I was like, well, I can't not like try say hello. So I put a letter in their letterbox, and I was like, oh my god, sweet, we're going to be besties, we're going to be like making amazing films together. And then the next day I walked past their house and they'd taken the postbox off the wall. And I was like, oh
my god. Okay, can you let me know who that is later?
I will.
Oh, do you know what? God loves a trier though, but that's
I know.
I'd say that's relatively stalky.
I know it was a bit creepy, and I was really embarrassed after, and that I did feel a bit like, oh, okay. But you know, you just got to try.
You got to try these things. But I'll give you a good example though. So you reached out with Maisie. You reached out to Maisie, and that obviously worked out really well. I reached out to you when I saw you win the BAFTA and give the speech, and your dad was crying, and I was like, really need to speak to this girl. And then that's how we met, and now we're all working together. So you just got to like find your people, and it might take us a little while. Okay, so Michaela has asked, isn't it super hard though to have the energy to do both things, your projects and work, when you're working in the film and TV industry?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's why I stopped in a production company for a bit and I worked in a cafe instead, so that when I got home from work, it was exciting to then do my own projects instead of being like, oh, I've been doing film stuff all day, and then go home and do. Well, I mean, to go home and do more work anyway is exhausting. And I think especially after lockdown, like I don't really work in the evenings anymore, and I used to do loads, and I don't think I could ever go back to doing that now. So it's way easier said than done, but I think things have changed. So
I would say like probably in my early 20s when I first started in the industry, my stamina was like a lot better for working ridiculous hours and then still managing to like do other things. So you know, the thing is though, you can't you just got to decide what's right for you and like go with your gut on things. If you feel like you need to take some time off to like focus on something, work out your finances, see if it's relatively easy for you to do it, or just take a couple of weeks off work, you know? But you just got to work out what's right for you, and don't feel pressured to go and work like the clappers and burn yourself out completely, because stuff like that you won't come back from in the same way. Like burnout is real, and you just don't want to get to that point at all. So somebody's just asked a quick question. Can you remember how much it costs to submit your film to BAFTA?
I think it was £80. I was thinking that before. Yeah.
Cool.
So not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. And when you add all those things up with the festivals,
Yeah,
it's really something you have to take into consideration with your budget. So
yeah.
Kate has asked, have you ever worked with a storyboard artist? If not, would you? I've just graduated from Film and TV MA and wanted to make storyboards for directors.
I haven't, and but I would like to, because I find them so useful. I'm not a very good drawer, but when I was doing Girl, I used just still photographs from like the recce's or from the audition or from all different things, and just kind of like photoshopped them. Actually, I don't even think I used Photoshop. I think I used like paint or something. Like, yeah, it really didn't need to be anything expensive, but just like stick them all together kind of thing. And so that you at least kind of know, and you can show people what you think and just scribble over them. And yeah, that I would definitely recommend using storyboards if you can.
Cool. And do you have any tips for Kate? Because I think she wants to go into storyboarding, just in terms of like who she should be reaching out to, the type of people and stuff like that.
I mean, I suppose it would be good to reach out to directors who, yeah, because I think if I was doing a short now and I was a storyboard artist, then that would be really, really useful. That's probably a good place to start, or maybe even courses, or yeah, reach out to lots of different people.
Yeah, production companies, and like a lot of commercials will always have like a storyboard for their client. I find that more, more commercials and music videos where they're actually like selling a product. They use storyboards so they can like properly communicate what everything is going to be, and it's less so on, I mean, it's not on the films that I've worked on anyway. Okay, Bo Green has asked, hey Lowri, odd question here. I have the exact opposite experience from you with film. I went to school for filmmaking, but since graduated, I've started thinking I might want to be in front of the camera. Cool. I have no acting experience, and I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to get started. Great film, by the way. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. I mean, if like, surely there will be people that that who are on your course who are wanting to make films, and maybe you could try get into their films. But yeah, like, just try find people who are making films. And I think especially at the moment with I think people are wanting to just make things a bit more DIY at the moment. So if you just found a writer or a director and be like, I'd be interested in being in something, if you've got anything, like, I'm up for doing it, then that could be a way. But also getting on all those Facebook groups and everything that I think I used to always post castings on for short films on Facebook groups. So I'd say get on some of those. I think that's still a thing. I haven't done it in a while, but I did used to do that a lot, and I think it still happens.
Yeah, and you can definitely use Backstage, because we've got such a good varied level of different types of projects. There's like feature films and they're looking for leading roles, and commercials with big buyouts, but we've also got loads of projects like a lot of the people watching, we have loads of student films that run through the website, and smaller projects as well. So if you are just starting out and you need to start getting some stuff together for your reel, it's a really good place to go. So I'm going to put my email address here in the chat box for you, and if you want to reach out to me, I will send you a sign-up link so you can get a couple of months free. So I'm going to move on to Louis. So Louis has asked, hi Larry, what's the best way to reach out to people? Is it email, social media, etc.?
I think I've had the most luck with email. I've tried social media, but I don't usually get that much of a response to email.
Yeah, cool, same. And to find people's email addresses, you can either find them on their websites, or you can try and work out what like the formula is. Like if you're reaching out to a production company, if it's like Hannah.Williams, like I've just posted there, Hannah.Williams, I think, okay, well, I need to get in touch with Tim.Robbins. So I'm going to put Tim.Robbins at blah, 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 and hopefully that'll go through. So you have to be a bit of an investigator. Cool. Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry. You can't see the chat box because I've just sent that to, oh, I've just sent it to myself. So I'm going to say it out loud. It's just hannah.williams@backstage.com. So hannah.williams@backstage.com. Sorry, I thought you might be able to see that, but obviously not. Okay, so this is the last question, I'm afraid, and then we've got to wrap things up. So Sandra has asked, do you sometimes get demotivated doing your own do you sometimes get demotivated doing your projects for work instead of your own projects you want to work on? Sometimes I'm afraid that if I would start working in the future in some production companies, I would lose some passion for filmmaking and would not be interested in, sorry. Is there any advice on how to balance work and passion?
Yeah, I do think, sometimes when you're working at a production company, you can just run out of energy to keep making your own projects. But also sometimes it does make you be like, if they're doing that, then I want to do that. And it can actually give you a bit of a boost. So I don't really know how you feeling over the other, but it is really hard. And like, if you can do things in your spare time, then that's really good, but also you should have time to yourself, that where you're not always trying to get things off the ground. I don't know, it's such a tough one. I don't feel like I can give a great answer to it.
It is really tough, and it, like we said earlier, like it's really like dependent on your own schedule, your own like interests and connections and things like that. But like, like from your experience, Lowri, can you ask for advice and support within production companies, because it's in their interest to have creative people and passionate people working at the company? Like, is that ever something that you could ask for? I don't even know what.
No, that's true. Actually, I know, like now, like where I am at the moment, it's all very free, and we're like trying to. I suppose it would be a bit different to being when I was at Calling the Shots. At Calling the Shots, it was great because I think I could say, I've got this thing that I really want to do. Would you be interested? And actually, there was another production company before that was kind of similar, and I think they are open to hearing you out. So I think, that's a good point. If you just make it known that you do want to make projects yourself, and that the job that you're doing right now isn't what you're like aspiring to be exactly, but in a way that it doesn't like make them be like, well, we don't want you. I think that's only a good thing for them, because they're like, well, great, we've got a creative person right here, and that's what we're for. So
they might, if you don't ask, you don't get, Ben says. Absolutely. And like, they might then, if you're putting yourself forward as being, producer, director, writer, whatever, like, what's the point in you working there unless they know that? Like, they might be able to bring you up and give you a job producing something or assistant producing something. So but just obviously strike the balance between making sure that they know what the priority is, for you, that you're not bail. Cool. Okay, well, that was so much fun. Thank you so much, Lowri, for giving all your wisdom. It's such a great topic, especially for like most of the people, as I say, are student filmmakers, and how you can really go after things with your graduate film. It can go really far, as proven by Lowri.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So a couple of things. You guys will more likely be invited here by your course leader. I've probably seen some of you in different webinars before. I know we're getting to the stage now where you're probably all cast up, or even, as you say, you've already handed in your graduate films, but make sure you keep hold of your uni code to post on Backstage. I've got some really great news as well. We are launching crew profiles. So that means that whereas before, if you've used Backstage before to cast your projects, you'll now be able to use Backstage to find crew, but also as a crew member when you leave uni, or even during, if you want to pick up some smaller projects, you'll be able to find some jobs. There's going to be a lot of jobs going through the site for everything, HODs and runners and assistants and everything. So when that all gets put out, I'll get in touch with the course leaders. If you have any questions, like, feel free, honestly, drop me a line. I'm hannah.williams@backstage.com. And to give a shout out to our podcast, where can people go and listen?
They can go to Frank Film Club with Maisie Williams on Spotify, Apple, Audible, and where else is it? Is that everything? Acast as well.
Also at Frank Film Club on Instagram
and Twitter, actually.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You can follow Backstage at Backstage on Twitter and at BackstageCast on Instagram. And you can follow me at Hannah Caston on Twitter and at HMW Caston on Instagram. Nobody's going to remember all of these. I'm like spitting them out. Is there any way that people can go to look at more of your work?
Yeah. I mean, I actually do need to update my website, but you can go to lowriroberts.com, which has some of my work on it, or no, that's probably it. All my Instagram you'll see some of what I've done, which is Lowri R at Lowri R.
At Lowri R.
So go there.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks again. Thank you everyone for watching. And I hope to catch some of you soon. Thanks, Lowri.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.